Now I want to know, why do you believe in this conception? Like you are a rational, reasonable person as well. You know all these criticisms of the critical historical criticism of Bukhari, Muslim. What is your appeal into believing, like whatever you believe in? I don't even know what you believe in now.
I believe in God. I believe in Allah. I believe in the Prophet ﷺ.
Why did you accept the Prophet? I'm really interested in, because to be honest, my personal belief is this: if you don't hold to metaphysics like me, what's the evidence to believe in the prophecy? What evidence is there?
It's
the way I can justify prophecy to myself. I'm telling you this from my perspective. The way I can justify prophecy to myself is because I believe in metaphysics. If I didn't believe in metaphysics, I could not be convinced of prophecy from historical standards. What did you find convincing that convinced you of prophecy?
Yeah, so a simple answer. It's a minimization of ontological complexity, right? So the abductive hypothesis that minimizes ontological complexity. What that means is basically there are certain things that we know about the Prophet ﷺ that are inexplainable through any other framework other than the Islamic framework. The Prophet ﷺ is the Prophet. Sorry?
Like what?
Like his prophecies.
What prophecies? How do you know these prophecies are not later fabrications?
Because we have manuscripts attesting that these prophecies were made before.
Okay, which one are you thinking about?
Any of the prophecies that are in Bukhari or Muslim, any of them.
Which prophecy? Which prophecy do we have a manuscript for? Because see, Omar,
we're not dealing with kitab.
Like if you make this claim, like on solid grounds, this can actually be published. We can convince a lot more people. So that's why actually I want to know, and I want to send it to my critical, historical, scholarly friends as well. So we can go in at it.
I'm going to publish something. I was actually in my server. I was just talking with a few brothers about publishing something. This is something that's actually novel, and I think actually has value rather than this. Like the arguments that I have are not any different from anything that you haven't read in Farid Hafidhullah's works or. In other people that have written books on, Dalail al-Nabuwa, so on and so forth. But
the problem with Dalail al-Nabuwa works is that all of them, they're not based on manuscripts. They're based on basically followers, followers saying stuff, and not even direct followers. It's like common names.
Those are not the conversations that I find have the most value, right? The conversation.
No, I think this, bro. Let me
tell you something. Since you're interested in publishing something, and you might be interested, let me share with you something that I am interested in publishing. I'm interested in publishing a paper on a metric for the extent of tawatur, right? So to explain, there's no hadith in the entire corpus that has 100 completely independent chains from speaker all the way down to the book writer, yeah? No hadith.
Super Omar, the thing is, like, this whole notion of tawatur, this ICMA debunks this notion. Do you understand? Like, because the main problem that we face in Sunni corpus is that there is a lot of sarqa, right? And there's a lot of stealing chains, basically, right? So this whole idea of there being tawatur, this is completely debunked. Like, if you don't take account the Isnad-cum-matn analysis of all the traditions that you are taking into account, because then you are just uncritically asserting that the chain that is attributed.
I understand. I'm very familiar. Let me explain what the idea is, right? And so there's no hadith that has 100 chains, but like for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to assume that there is a hadith that has 100 completely independent chains, no overlap at any tabaqa, right? Let's say there's so we have like 500 people in total. And then, so this hadith is obviously mutawatir. And then if we go to we check another hadith that has, suppose 80 independent chains, same, 5 tabaqat, and then but only 80 chains instead of 100. the chain, the hadith that has 100 independent chains is obviously more mutawatir than the hadith that only has 80, but both are mutawatir, right? There's some loss in describing a hadith as being mutawatir or not, right? And people throw these claims around all the time. Oh, hadith tayr is mutawatir, the nas for so-and-so imam is mutawatir. What I want to derive is a metric, a scalar metric that we can give to a hadith based on compiling all the chains, that basically takes in the data where you have a list of narrators, or a list of lists, where each list is a list of narrators, and assign a score, a tawatur score to that hadith. And I had some ideas of how to do that using...
Okay, that makes sense, but the problem is how do you account for sirqa?
Right. So here's the idea.
Because if you don't do ICMA, then it's irrelevant. You know, just I might as well add 5 more chains in there.
It doesn't. So we're not looking at matan, right? So or the only the
yeah, so that's the thing. That's the whole point. You are assuming.
The relevance of matan is that we only look at a hadith that have the same matan, the exact the same matan. The
thing is, even if. How would you know that these are independent? This is independent content. That's the main.
We take the claims at face value, right?
No, you can't. That's the thing. This is that's the main problem. You can't take the claims at face value. Okay, then we take everything at face value. Why are we having a discussion? The whole point of ICMA. 1 minute. The whole point of ICMA is to analyze, right? Okay. We analyze that, we take the hypothesis.
And yes, you're missing the point. You cut me off, so you didn't let me hear the whole thing, right?
Go ahead.
Just like you're skeptical of Bukhari and Muslim, I'm skeptical of Kulaini. The whole point of
That's fine. That's irrelevant to what I'm talking about right now, right? Kulaini fabricated everything, right?
Not Kulaini. The narrators and the Imami corpus, right? I have very negative opinions.
That's fine. That's bro.
The whole point of this technique is that we don't rely on jarh wa ta'dil, we don't rely on ilm al-rijal. We just take these, we just look at coinciding narrators, and that's the only input to the algorithm. The output is a single score.
But the thing is, what are you trying to prove? Because this algorithm obviously is not going to... But the thing is, that's not, it's just a mass, quote-unquote, mass transmission as how you defined it, right? It doesn't say anything about whether the hadith is
according to the objective metric, right? So that's what
it's not objective. That's the problem, because you are assuming. I don't know why you are not understanding this. You are assuming that these asanid are independent at the first place, right? That doesn't follow necessarily.
Of course they're not. Yeah,
that's the thing. Even if you say they are like Aisha hadiths, right?
I told you at the beginning.
Just a minute. Let me understand where you are coming. Did you read Joshua Little's dissertation, cover to cover, like page to page?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's the main problem. See, the problem is sometimes, on the face value, when you make the hadith sanad tree, you see all these corroborations, right? And you're like, oh yeah, you have 8 chains, amazing. You have 8
I understand your point, but that's the whole point of the algorithm. It's that there are...
No, but algorithm can't. That's the problem. If you just put... Omar, the problem, if you just put the chain like this and assume it is reliable, the algorithm is just going to come up with a scalar quantity. It's not going to help you anyway in establishing the historicity of that hadith. Do you understand the problem?
No,
right?
No.
The algorithm is just going to do what you tell it to do. If you tell it to do, okay, take all these 8 chains, and generate a scalar score for it, it's going to generate a scalar score. That's not a problem. The problem is that you are assuming that all these 8 chains are even actual chains to begin with.
Yeah. So you're not understanding, bro.
How am I not understanding?
The whole point of the algorithm is to say, suppose at face value we have 8 chains, yeah? At face value we have 8 chains. The algorithm will look at these what do you think the input to the algorithm is? Is it just a number 8?
I thought it would be the hadith.
Hadith, how? How do we represent it in a way that computers can understand?
I don't know. You tell me. You are the computer scientist here.
Okay, exactly. So we input a list of lists. Each list represents a chain, right? And so for example, suppose we have 4 chains, okay? in chain, and each chain has 4 narrators. Okay, if we have 16 independent names, then that would have a much higher score, and you'll understand.
Okay.
Then for example,
so how am I not understanding the point? I understood this point. So
uniqueness of names is the uniqueness of names here is the distinguishing factor.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The uniqueness of names in the chain, Omar, that's the problem. The uniqueness of the names in the chain does not say anything about the historicity of the hadith.
Yeah, because we don't care about matan here, bro. We're just looking at the chain.
Why don't you? That's irrelevant. Like, I can make
there
like
are many mutun. Like, yeah, bro, we get it. For example, if you open Kifayat al-Athar,
that's fine, bro. I don't care about kifayat. I apply the same method.
I'm giving you an example.
I apply the same methodology. That's the thing. I'm not Farid. I'm not Super Omar. I'm trained in critical history, right? So I apply the same methodology. Both things, it's not going to change. Oh, I am publishing a paper on Al-Kafi, so I suddenly turn off my mind and, I've suddenly...
You keep cutting me off, bro. Ilyas, we started off having
No, I'm not cutting you off. I genuinely am trying to understand.
Saying that I'm cutting me off.
I'm genuinely trying to understand how does uniqueness of names entail historicity.
This guy is going to talk you over every sentence. Like, in the beginning, we were having a nice conversation, and now you're just cutting me off, like, before I can say...
Go ahead. No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. And just to clarify, the reason why it's sounding weird is because you're jumping to conclusions about what I'm saying, and that's why you're misunderstanding me, because you're not letting me finish. Anyways, so the whole idea here is that in tawatur, and this is one of the criticisms that Orientalists have as well, is that there's this idea called phantom tawatur, right? Where hadith, if you draw it out in a certain way, it looks like there's a whole bunch of chains, but actually there isn't, because there's a choke point. For example, if you look at Kifayat al-Athar, people will be like, oh, look, it's mutawatir. We have a billion and 2 chains for the nas of, Muhammad al-Jawad, for example. No, you have one chain. You have one chain. Why? In all Kifayat al-Athar, you have one chain. Why? Because it all goes through this guy, Khazat al-Qummi. Yeah? And that's the problem that we're running into, that there's choke points. So we need a way to describe, even Hadith Tayr, for example, 80 chains, 100 chains, 150 chains. No, we have way less because of choke points, because of repeated narrators. So we need a scalar to represent the extent of repeated narrators, and that takes that into account. How many narrators do we have relative to the number of turuq, right? That scalar, that representation, I believe, captures the essential information for mass transmission, and is a much better metric than number of chains. Because at face value, Hadith Tayr has 150 chains. No, it doesn't. So we need a metric other than that 150 number that will describe how mutawatir Hadith Tayr is, for example.
Yeah. You see, Omar, I think you are the one who's not understanding what the problem is here, right? As I told you before as well, the uniqueness, what you are talking about, choke points, right? The choke points are not only explicit, they're implicit as well, i.e. you have chains that are made up, right? So in any critical historical method where you are trying to prove the historicity of the hadith, you have to prove that these 5-6 different chains that you're citing, none of them are made up, right? So you have to show that their text, the text that they are transmitting, is indeed independently transmitted, right? This algorithm doesn't show that. That's the problem. Omar, listen to me. Rather, it assumes that, right? Because when you're giving it these chains, you're already assuming that such a transmission even happened.
Okay, so the whole point is that we know that people lie. Even in a mutawatir hadith, even if a hadith is true, there's still going to be people who lied and said, oh yeah, I heard it from this person, or they heard it from more people than they actually did, right? So we know this. We know this. It is present in the Sunni corpus, it's present in the 12er corpus, yeah? There are liars. That's why we have, tad'if and we have jarh for people, right? We know that people are liars. We know that lying happens, right? The point of tawatur is that we're able to ascertain truth in spite of people lying, because the whole
I think you don't even, bro, what are you saying, man?
What's the abductive assumption in accepting a mutawatir hadith?
No, the thing is you have to prove it is, see, it's like this. The Aisha hadith, for example, right? It has a chain, which comes from somebody who's not Hisham ibn Urwa, right? Now the question is, how do we know that the person who is saying that there is this non-Hisham ibn Urwa chain, this person didn't just make the chain up, right? This is the question. This is not even an assumption here. We are not saying this. Listen to me, Omar, just let me finish. We are not even saying this person is lying right now, right? We are not even saying this person is lying. We are just questioning, okay, did this person make up the chain or not, right? And that's 1 minute. No, listen to me. That's an inductive claim, right? Now you have to test for this inductive claim.
It's an abductive claim.
Yeah, no, it's both. It's okay. Abduction itself is based in inductive principles, right? So now you come to what is the more likely abduction? What is the more likely explanation here for the emergence of this chain, which appears to be independent, right? Now, a very good evidence. 1 minute. Now listen to me. A very good evidence of this would be, for example, if person A, who is a contemporary of Urwa, right, is attributing this chain to somebody higher, right? And you have wide corroboration of other people also attributing it to him that are contemporaneous to this person, right? That would increase the probability. And if it also happens to be the case that the particular recension that is being transmitted is also textually independent, i.e. it has particular peculiarities that do not exist in the recension of Hisham ibn Urwa, right?
Yeah,
but if just listen to me, if all of this is missing, then it is more likely, actually very highly likely, that this person literally just made up a chain. This is called a dive, or when it happens a lot, it's called a spider, right? So any algorithm in which you don't do matan analysis, i.e. you don't actually prove that this chain of attribution is independent, rather just assume it, that's not going to say anything about historicity. That algorithm is only...
Detecting spiders is very easy using graph theory, right? Like, you know this.
No, it's not. It's not actually.
Very easy,
because
actually.
No, it's not. Because the thing is, you are not taking into account the most obvious thing, right? Which is the matan itself, right? Because there are particular peculiarities in sub-traditions, in sub-recensions, right? And if it happens to be the case that this seemingly independent chain has this peculiarity of another sub-tradition, voila, we know for a fact, the high probability that this person literally just made up a chain, right? This is why I have been asking Farid to come in and, this is the whole basis of Isnad-cum-matn analysis, and no Sunni traditionist. And I'm not saying, Shias are amazing, this, that. No, nothing like that. No traditionist. Let's just put it that way. No traditionist, be it Sunni, Shi, Kharji, whatever. No traditionist has answered this criticism. That's the problem. Even Farid, he goes on, makes a whole video about Joshua's Little's general concern, but doesn't answer the main point of the dissertation, right? Yeah. Which I think is much more substantiated, which is very smart actually, right? So you need to take a Isnad-cum-matn analysis into account.
Yeah, bro. I think we're talking past each other.
No, I don't think we are talking past each other. I think
if a million people,
you actually understood what I said.
If a million people come to you and tell you that Donald Trump won the election, okay, I think that would like there's a certain number of people beyond which it's kind of impossible that they all lied. Right? I think we can both agree to that. Yes?
Yes, but that's not what we are seeing here. That's what I told you as well.
Suppose
we don't have Omar, listen to me. Yeah, we don't have 100 people. 1 minute, Omar. My disagreement is not over the fact that if I have multiple independent attributions, that I will accept them. Of course, even if I have 3 of them, I will accept, no problem. Yeah, 3 independent attribution, pretty solid. Unless, there is some other alternative reasons to take into account. In general, even 3 attributions, pretty solid in history. The problem is, now listen to me, Omar, you are not understanding the problem. The problem is that what we are calling as independent, my worry is, my skepticism is, and there's good reason to be skeptical of that, is that it is not actually independent. That's the whole point.
I agree.
Right?
No, I'm
And,
with
and you can't, and the problem is you are thinking that you can prove something is independent just by the
No,
sanad.
you cannot.
Yes,
Because,
you
and
need
I'll
to
tell you the
take,
example-
that's what I'm saying. You need to take the matan into the account.
Listen, bro, listen to what I'm saying. In the example where we have 100 quote, air quotes, independent chains, we can know that some portion of those 100 are and contain irreliable people. Some portion of them are people who never heard anything. They just heard it from somebody else and they're fabricating more chains. But the beauty of the algorithm is that the weight of a single testimony is only a single testimony. That's the whole point of tawatur and mass transmission. It's that we're not relying on singular testimony, right? When you have enough people, it's a disjunction. You understand the thing here, right? It's a disjunction. The whole point of tawatur is it's a disjunction, not a conjunction. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's bro, I understand this, and I'm telling you what's the problem. I don't know why you're not understanding the problem.
You know what? I'll write it up. I'm planning to write it up.
Wallahi, I understand what you're saying, and I'm literally showing you what the problem is. The problem is you are thinking that you are assigning weight that is equal, right? Whereas in reality, this weight would not be equal. Right? Because if a sanad is literally fabricated, all the common links, everything that is derivated from that matan, no matter how many asanid it has, the weight becomes zero.
Perfect.
It has no historicity at all.
That's exactly what my algorithm does. Because so if
it doesn't, because
let me give you an example.
Let me give you an example. The problem is,
can I give you an example?
Omar, let me just question, then you give me an example.
Okay.
No algorithm can do it unless they take matan dependence into account. Right?
Let me explain.
Okay.
So Kifayat al-Athar, for example. Kifayat al-Athar. I think this is a perfect, for me, in my Sunni position or whatever, Kifayat al-Athar is the perfect example of what you're describing. Where you have a singular bad actor who is fabricating chains, right? Who's fabricating chains en masse. Bro just sat down and wrote down a whole bunch of chains that don't make any sense, okay? In the algorithm, in the analysis of the algorithm, so, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention, the algorithm is not completely agnostic to matan. The only extent to which the algorithm uses matan is that it distinguishes between different lafz, right? So it has to, all these, if you're taking, so as you know, with mutawatir traditions, sometimes there's like slight changes in the wording, right? So we need a way to coagulate all the different wordings that correspond to a single haditha, to a single event, and make sure that they're together. And anything that's referring to a second haditha or a different haditha, maybe same idea but a different haditha, is separate. So for example, with the Imam of Al-Jawad, you might have multiple different instances of Ali ibn Musa Rida giving nas to Al-Jawad. Okay? But if it's not the same haditha, it's not the same event, it's not the same recording, they're treated as completely different hadith, because it's much easier for multiple people to agree to conspire to lie about a particular idea than it is for them to conspire to lie about a particular haditha, if that makes sense. So there is some, it's not completely agnostic to matan, but the only extent to which matan matters is that it differentiates events, okay? And then so going back to the Kifayat al-Athar example, with Kifayat al-Athar, because this guy Khazaz al-Qummi basically sat down and en masse just fabricated a bunch of chains, the algorithm will take into account that all of these chains have a choke point at one guy. And it's very possible that one guy en masse fabricated all this. So it takes that into account. And it shows what's the effect of any individual person, because the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Any individual person, what happens to the chain tree if you take out Khazaz al-Qummi? 95% of the nas for Al-Jawad goes away, right?
Yeah, again, you see that you are not understanding what I'm saying. What you are talking about, there's a very nuanced difference in what I am talking about and what you are talking about, right? What I am saying is that even when you have chains, right, where you have partial common links, right, and those partial common links attribute it to somebody else, right? The problem is if that person fabricated chain right?
Yeah.
Anyone who takes from that particular person, right? This is what happened with the Aisha hadith, for example. You
Well,
have how many?
You're referring to a choke point, yes? Is that what you're referring to or not?
Yeah, but the thing is, you are thinking of choke points as always explicit. That's the main problem we are running into. You are thinking that choke points are explicit. No, I'm saying they can be implicit as well, in the sense that there was a particular recension being reported with a particular chain, right? And then somebody takes that recension and attributes it to another chain, right?
How often does that happen? How often does that happen?
A lot. That's the point. That's the main point of ICMA. It is to find out whether this has happened in the chain or not. And for that, you need to be very precise with your matan analysis, right? Because and how do you do it? It's very simple, actually. How do you figure out who are these bad faith actors who are making up chains, right? So this is what Joshua Little and
I'm not diminishing the value of ICMA, right? What I'm saying is that
I am saying
my analysis is orthogonal to ICMA, by the way. It's not like
no. The problem is your analysis is missing a very essential point, essential consideration. That's what I'm getting to. No, ICMA is not missing anything, because ICMA is not denying that these chains exist, or these chains potentially could be independent attestations. ICMA is not missing any of that. ICMA is saying, yeah, it could be, but we need to check whether these chains are reliable, whether they are made up or not. That's all ICMA is doing, and that's exactly what we should be doing, right? Because, for example, if we want to have multiple attestations, we first need to be sure that these attestations are even multiple at the first place, right? Then it becomes pretty easy. So all we need to do is that we have to eliminate all these fake asanid. All the asanid that are made up, all the asanid that are fake. And that's exactly what you do with matan analysis. That's what Joshua Little does. And I'm being very honest here. I've read the thesis. Joshua is a friend of mine as well. So none of the traditionists, okay, I know you don't like the polemical language. None of the traditionists have actually answered the thesis, right? That's the problem. Even your friend Farid has not answered the thesis. And the reason for that, what I think, is because Farid doesn't have an answer either. Right? No, he's not my imam. But obviously, if I see an argument, I'm not going to deny an argument just because, white person is saying it. That would be ridiculous. Right? I look at an argument and I analyze the argument based on its merits. I don't analyze, this guy's a kafir, I'm not going to accept his argument. No, if he gives an argument, I'm going to analyze the argument and either try to refute it, and if I'm ajiz, I can't refute it, I'm going to accept it.
Sure.
Right?
Sounds good, bro. I think we've had a great conversation. I thank you for coming here. I hope you feel that I've honored my word of having hosting a fair conversation.
Yeah, but I think there has been one thing missing. You haven't told me why you believe in what you believe.
I told you, bro, the standard arguments. If you think that
what are the thing is, all those standard arguments are like coming 100 years later. So
that's fine. What do you want me to do? You want me to deny?
From this conversation, to be honest, now I just want to say this. From this conversation, I feel like I've given so much justification, whereas I have not gotten any justification to believe in what you are positing.
What am I positing? I'm positing that Allah is one, and that there's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Quran is true. That's all I'm positing.
No, you are also positing that the part of Sunni creed that Osman was Abu Bakr.
I haven't said that to you one time. I haven't said that to you. I haven't said that to you.
No, but that's part of Sunni creed.
I haven't posited that to you, bro. That's like
no, but what? If you aren't you Sunni?
One second. If you're asking me why I believe in Islam, like, what are you calling me towards?
No, I'm not asking you why you believe in Islam. I'm asking you why you believe in the particular version that you believe in.
Okay.
So that includes the negation for Khawarij as well, because Khawarij did tabarra on Uthman.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm satisfied with the conversation we've had so far. I'm getting kind of bored.
No, I am satisfied for my part as well, but I think
I know. We've had a great conversation.
You should give some arguments for why you believe. And this, I want to have this conversation with Farid as well, because I know there's things get stuck in polemics and this and that, and we are attacking each other. But I think we should make an honest attempt at understanding why the other person believes what they believe. right? Like I have gone to so much depth in explaining why I believe what I believe, and I want to know if I come back to the belief that I was on, right?
Do you have Twitter?
Obvious, brethren of purity.
Tweet at Farid and see if he'll converse with you.
Oh
Inshallah.
no, I messaged him even in DM, no problem.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and message him. Inshallah, let me know. Let me know if he.
No,
agrees.
you ask him if he wants to come. You know, we can even invite Joshua Little. You know, we can have a collective conversation about
Bro, come
Hadith.
on, be real, bro. I can't just.
No, why not? You know, it's good too. We should engage with critical historical scholarship.
All right, bro. I think the brothers want to have a different conversation now. So, like,
Okay, I'm out. No problem. Thank you very much for a good conversation.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Masalam.
no, my friend.
But you didn't give me a reason to be a Salafi. So.